Then, yeah. So first of all, big news today was that we heard in the actual interview by uh, Sandy Monroe, who's part of Monroe and Associates. He interviewed Elon Musk, and they dropped that video this morning. So what he said was regarding the compact car, which I thought was the biggest part of the news of that conversation. Elon actually said that he's actively walking the line, or he's actively keeping in touch of what's going on with the line. So that sounds like that there's a production line already at Giga, Texas. He also said that the revolution in manufacturing is going to, represented by that car, is going to blow people's minds. It's not like any car production has ever made before. So this is something that's quite interesting to me, that it seems like that this production for the next gen low cost vehicles way ahead of schedule, more than what we were thinking about. How did you interpret that, Jeff?
I think he was just he acknowledged his role and it's a priority. Remember a year or two ago, he was even questioning the even doing a vehicle like this. And again, I think back then, there were cell constraints. There's a number of other capacity constraints in the industry. Why throw another high volume product in there? So I think he's acknowledging the importance of it and the fact he's directly involved. I think the move to Austin was discussed and I think more confirmed earlier in the year. I don't think that was news. I think some people were interpreting it as news. I didn't view it as news. And and moving it to Austin is great. It's going to get them to market faster. I believe in Austin's a gigantic facility, and they're continuing to expand on it, 2,000 acres. So yeah, I think it bodes well for that vehicle, and that vehicle is going to be a huge magnet for Tesla. Already has the number one selling auto. So if you're anybody that works in auto, whether you're a software provider, hardware providers, metal spring supplier, you're going to be throwing yourself at Tesla to try to get yourself into the Model Y business. And now they've got this, whatever you want to call it, Model 2. And it's going to be, double, maybe 2.5, 3 times the volume of Model Y. And, that beauty contest, that bake off is starting right now. And there's suppliers fighting for that business right now. So from my perspective, I think Tesla can heavily leverage that to solve, to get leverage over suppliers today on cost, on performance, whether it's on Model 3Y or even Cybertruck. So the Model 2 is it's big for Tesla because it's going to be this huge volume driver. It's big for the marketplace because it's going to give consumers access to EV at a different price point than exists before. But I just don't underestimate the leverage it provides Tesla today. You don't have to wait for the car to be here. It's actually helping them today.
Okay, and to clarify what I just said, actually, the actual words that Elon said in the interview was that Tesla is far advanced in the development of the next gen low cost vehicle, and that he reviews the production plans for that every week. I just interviewed Joe Techmeyer earlier today. That video will come out this weekend. Joe has been following the development of Giga Texas for, every 2 days. He goes out there and he does videos, flyovers with a drone. And he already saw permits being submitted. He had already kind of suspected that the production line of the Gen 2 vehicle, Gen 3 vehicle, the Model 2, is well on its way. And then to hear Elon confirm that this production line, or at least the plans for the production line, is well on its way. So that was really good to hear. What did you think, Xander?
I'm sorry, I can't comment on stock moving items. Just kidding. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I want to highlight that. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but this is going to be a needle mover. The fact that they're bringing it to Austin is there's no delays. And when it's right to go, they will launch it. I saw a lot of chatter regarding it should be done in, like, they're not thinking about other countries. So I want to bring that up. Haven't wasn't the whole idea behind this vehicle started with the China design team, and uh, that's who's spearheading the thinking behind it?
I don't know about that. The China team worked on the Model 3 refresh and probably taking that cost structure down, adding those features. I think this one is getting hatched up, in the US, but it doesn't mean that the Shanghai team can't be working on elements of it. This is one of those things where, they need a lead factory, and it's probably going to be Austin. But these other factories that are not lead factories, they're going to have a say in how this thing goes together. Um, and yeah, so
Yeah, but one of the things that Joe told me today, just now, was that when he did the tour, he was shocked to see not only you met Jeff, you met Tom Chu there, but a lot of the employees from Giga Shanghai was there also. So no, there's no way that this was designed by Shanghai. This is designed by Franz, by the team. This is a whole new design. I heard also, wanted to confirm with you guys that this Gen 3 is going to share a lot of the learnings and the interior of the Cybertruck. So even though it might not end up having Cybertruck design, which I still think it might, but at least the interior, the semi-modular. The only reason the Cybertruck is not quite yet fully modular design or this unboxed models because they still don't have brake-by-wire is what Joe was saying. But yeah, this is completely newly designed. Anyways, it's just this idea that they're further ahead than we thought, that he was so proud of how this whole manufacturing is going to blow people's mind, is what Elon said when they find out how they built this car. It sounds to me that the only way it's going to blow people's minds is that they've made this so much more efficient, so much more cheaper production line. And then he did confirm that it is going to happen in Giga Texas, and Giga Mexico will follow a second place. Yeah, Ryan, please join us. Are you going to be able to be the first to capture a video of the Model 2?
I don't know about that. I mean, we're talking really distant stuff now, but I just want to throw out there my thoughts about what could blow people's minds. What do we have any inferences on it right now? And I mean, I think from my perspective, and not that I understand what it takes to get there as far as actually like getting to this point, but my speculative belief is the unbelievable thing about Model 2 will be a single piece casting for the entire car rather than right now where we're seeing multiple different pieces. So that would blow everyone's mind, in my mind.
Okay, well, we've got to debate that. People, you cannot say unboxed model and then say single casting at the same time. Yeah, Jeff, I think you're the one that told me that.
well, I mean, there's a number of ways they could approach it. What you're trying to do is, if you can get the die to have the front and the rear as one open and closing action, you're essentially, this is about raw material usage, this is about process time, and this is about yield. And as long as you can accomplish that, whether the two things are connected or not, from a manufacturing COGS perspective, you really want to get the process time down. You want to get the factory floor space down. And what I described would do that. So, I mean, none of us honestly have real insights into like how this car is designed other than what we heard, on Investor Day and what they said at a very high level. Nobody knows. We're not in the drafting. We're not in the design rooms and design reviews with Tesla. But I mean, I can't say that, you know, Ryan's assertion is wrong. Maybe they figured it out. But one of my point is, though, I think they could get a lot of the benefits of a single piece by having, one open and close action and both the front and the rear on the same die, and that would solve a lot of that as well.
So did Elon also say at the interview with Sandy that it would take too long to complete the factory in Mexico? I don't remember him saying that exactly. Do you guys remember?
Yeah, I mean, he said it was going to take, he said that and I've always believed this too, the quicker path to production when you have new product is to go into an existing factory. I've never been a fan of new product, new factory. I didn't like the original plan of the model for this 25K model being in Mexico. Nothing against Mexico, but you need a lead factory, and that lead factory should be a factory of people that are building and shipping stuff right now. Because then you want to take those experienced people that are experienced in the Tesla way, and you want them moving over to the new product. So you have existing labor, trained labor, on the new product. And the reason to do it in Austin is to have that existing labor and engineers, and more importantly, have a factory that every system has been proven, it's up and running, material flows in, suppliers are getting paid, product processes through, it ships out, all the trucks know and understand the distribution network, everything's all set up. Again, Mexico will eventually get there. Mexico may be a lead factory for another product, but then at that point, hopefully they would have received the 25K car, already process it, build it, and now they're an experienced Tesla factory, so now they can take on a new project. So yeah, so I think new product, new factories, not usually a good mix. You want proven existing factory, new product. I think it's a much better mix.
To what extent could they be sharing a lot of the process for Cybertruck? Because if they were, right, of course they're doing the 48 volt architecture, they're doing the 4860s, they're doing probably the drive, the steer by wire. A lot of the internals will be reused. And if that's the case, would that not accelerate the development of the production line for the compact car?
Yeah, reuse accelerates production timelines. There's no question about it. Yeah, I'll let others. I'm a lot of talking. I'll let others speak. But yeah, reuse definitely accelerates it. But I don't. Well, that's a good point. For the $25,000 car, I think they need a new motor. You have to fit into a cost envelope. Here's what happened: Tesla designed the Model S and X, and I believe that those cars are 55, 60,000 plus to manufacture. A lot of components, a lot of complexity in how they go together. And then Tesla did the 3 and Y, and those cars probably started around 40x plus K to build, and now there's something that can be done in the low 30s, low to mid 30s, depending on the site, whether it's Shanghai or the US. So that's a meaningful move down. S and X, 50 K, 5K to 65 something K, or maybe 60K to build those cars. Now you step down to the 3 and Y, and you're in the low to mid 30s. My guess is to get this 25K car, they're going to want to have cogs somewhere fully landed. Fully landed cogs means that's a delivered car that's at the customer. I'm assuming they're going to want something in the 17.5 to 19.5K range. And that's a big, meaningful step down. So that sometimes prohibits you from doing a lot of reuse, because you're going to have to design components that fit into a completely new cost envelope. So we'll see how they do it.
Hey, Isaac, it's been forever. How are you?
Good. Thanks, man. Good to see you guys. I mean, I believe they're still going to do their scale production of the low-cost car in Mexico, but I think they did slow down all their capital investments just due to the economy. So they probably then realized we have to iterate our production lines anyway, and we're slowing down just generally capital deployment. So I think it makes sense for them to maybe go to version 2 of the assembly line in Texas before they scale up in Mexico. But I do think most of their volume for it will come out of Mexico ultimately.
Welcome, Diana. We're talking about the compact car, but if was there anything else in this incredible interview that Sandy had with Elon? Was anything that came out surprised you?
Hey, Herbert, long time no chat. Good to hear you.
Oh, I know. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was hoping to see you, but I guess next time. No, right now I'm trying to catch up to all the news and hear what you guys your views on it, and I'll jump in here shortly.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, come on up, AJ. AJ, we can't hear you.
Sorry, it took
There
me
you
a while to unmute the button. Sorry. Just on the capex point, I just like to remind everybody that in the 10Q, Tesla said they expect to exceed their 11 billion guidance.
Exactly, but was that, you think, so that, are you saying that you think that that's because they're going to accelerate the Gen 2, or were they going to take that money for AI and Dojo?
I think it's everybody's speculation for what they use it, but when you work out the numbers, it means they're going to spend 2.6 billion in 4Q, and this is an acceleration or a slowdown in capital expenditure.
Yeah, exactly. So was, other than the Gen 2, which for me was the biggest news, was there anything else that you guys heard today? Like, you know, Jeff, the whole thing about that they were actually delayed because of supply chain. You knew that already, right? And that's why I think you or somebody else was telling me that when you guys were at the Cybertruck delivery event talking to the employees, that they said that the production line itself is moving fast. And in fact, Sandy Monroe's calculated that it's 60 cars being produced every minute. So it's like one car every 60 seconds.
No.
But that it was supply chain that was slowing them down.
No, yeah. No, okay, be clear. Nobody knows the production rate of that line. Probably 0.001% of Tesla employees actually know that answer. Probably Tom Zhu and some of his key leads and some of the production managers on the line. That's very like tightly kept information. A random like engineer that's working on system, they're not going to know that. They'll know it for their station. Remember, there's many stations involved in building a product, but in normal companies, that's very tightly kept information. And so I wouldn't expect it. And by the way, you would be told that on a Thursday, and by Sunday it's completely different. The line can be down.
Yeah, just to be clear, nobody was saying that. What they heard was that the production line is moving fast, except what's slowing them down is supplies of parts that are missing. What it was at Sandy Monroe, who himself calculated that, and then he said it in the interview, and Elon didn't say anything to counter that.
So I want to jump in on this just because that's not the way that I heard it. You just suggested 1 vehicle per second. The way I understood it was 60 seconds
It's
per job, which works
one
out
vehicle
to 6.
It's 1 vehicle per minute. And
Okay.
and today in today's Sandy interview, he actually said it's 1 vehicle per minute.
And just to clarify, the way that I interpreted that was his prediction looking at the line. That wasn't necessarily a calculation.
Correct. In the future.
Yeah, and that's what it may ultimately run at that, but they're probably nowhere near that at this point. And yeah, and every new product ramp, there's some top 5 list of components that are gating coming into the ramp. Again, unless it was super high reuse, then the inbound supply chain is usually in pretty good shape. But this is a brand new product. You know, they're the new 40 volt architecture, a bunch of different stuff, steer by wire. You know, they're going to have a top 5 list for a lengthy period of time, and that's why those stations were running in loop mode or a demo mode to kind of show us the operation. There were Cybertrucks all over the factory in various stages and forms. They all looked like they were on their way to advancing through production, but there probably wasn't enough material to keep that line fully loaded and running. And again, for a factory tree of people running around, there's hundreds of people kind of walking down that aisleway. You don't necessarily want that when you're running full-on production. So yeah, long story short, yes, it would not be surprised if there's an inbound supply issue. None of us at the show. I don't know of any like information that wasn't made publicly available, but that's a typical thing that happen on a new product ramp.
Yeah, was Sam there a few days? Like, did he get to see a functioning production line, or just the demo that we saw, demo mode?
Well, just before the interview, he actually had a sit down with what's 5 or 6 of the top lieutenants of uh, of Tesla, and they gave him an inside look. And he had mentioned a few times that he was on the NDA, and he can't say a few things.
Right. Okay.
So I believe he flew in a day before, or I guess 2 days before the main event. I don't believe the NDA is directly related to what he saw at the factory that week. I think he's referring to longer term NDAs, working with Tesla to provide them guidance on manufacturing or on design.
Yeah, the other thing that he mentioned in the interview today was that the Cybertruck is not a bet the company product, just like the Model 3, Model Y were. And so this allowed them to really swing for the fences and really do things like the 4680 and the 48 volt and steer by wire and probably even some other things we don't know about. What do you guys think about that comment, that this allowed them to really swing for the fences?
Well, one thing they missed was the ramp in the back. I really really liked that, although maybe it wasn't that practical or that often used. But on the other points, yeah, I agree. They did swing for the fences.
And yeah, I think that that's exactly the case. As far as like design, just like, when you go back to like 2019, they said, Elon said, this product might flop, but I don't care. And I think that's kind of what he means by like, we were able to swing for the fences.
I love that.
Yeah, like the Model X in a way was one of the other not bet the company kind of situations. But every other time when they ramped up, well, not every other time, Model Y, they didn't really. But Roadster, Model S, and Model 3, the company could have failed if the product wasn't good enough. This time, like the Model X, it's not the case. They can take the bigger risks. They can go 48 volt architecture. They can go drive by wire. If people end up hating it, it's all right. Prior, if people ended up hating it, they'd have to rush to redesign the entire product, change the manufacturing line, the company might die. So I think it's actually great that, at the end of the day, it's going with confidence. If you, invest in the stock market and you put 100% of your net worth into a single options trade, you're going to want to sell the moment it starts going down. With basically what they're doing here, it's an options trade. They're taking a major risk, but they're only putting in 20%, 10%, 5%, 1% of their net worth. I don't know the actual number here, but they're risking a much more manageable number. And as a result, they'll likely get the gains of being the first to do drive-by-wire, steel truck, everything else they're doing, because they can design something that they believe should be out there. And ideally, the audience agrees and wants it.
And I think version 2 of Cybertruck, they know that they can just clean up with that. Like just getting the platform out there, I really believe that whatever they come out with next is really going to just dominate.
Yes, I think the other thing I'll add to that is just basically what you're saying, but they can learn from this. I'm really glad we don't know what the quote unquote robotaxi, the Model 2 will look like in any way yet, because where I see it is they can really decide, okay, what did work here? We all think 48 volt architecture is sure that's the way to go. Well, if it ends up being too hard or to get other suppliers aligned on that, they don't have to do that. If they think that the stainless steel is really proving out well and people are really enjoying it, people are customizing it in fun ways that make sense for robotaxi still, then they'll go with stainless steel with that. So I think this is really a great opportunity for them to learn what do people actually want, what works in manufacturing, and that then will hopefully lead the design for the rest.
Go ahead, AJ.
I was just going to add on the sort of how the Cybertruck came about. It was in a very particular moment in Tesla's history. It wasn't in 4Q 2019, just before COVID. This was the first time in that quarter Tesla exceeded 1 billion in free cash flow in a single quarter, and just recently became, on a 12-month basis, free cash flow positive. So it was in a very strong moment. And maybe there was a bit of an exuberance or whatever in that moment that gave them enough risk tolerance to start such a project. Obviously, then came COVID, and shortages, blah, 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 which led to the 4-year delay. Well, let's say 2-year delay, or at least 1-year delay. And but now I think we're in a very different situation. And yeah, so I just wanted to point this out, that this was in a very particular moment in Tesla's history where they really became very strong for the first time.
And the only other thing I want to add to that is you look at Model S, and in its design, it's very, at the time, especially in 2012, it was very in line with everything else. If you wanted a luxury sedan, and you kind of combined Aston Martin, Porsche, and a whole bunch of others, and Ford's kind of nose cone or whatever. Ford's not the great example, but you get the idea. At the time, that was kind of what people wanted. When Cybertruck was launched, no one wanted that design, but I think now, understanding why and what it means and what it does, people are going to really want it. And so I think you're exactly right. Tesla started designing vehicles that they knew people wanted, and now they're designing based on what they believe is the best.
Yeah, well put, Ryan. I think that, this truck is designed around a material, and Elon working with Starship, the engineers, they cross pollinate sometimes. So that material makes for like the DeLorean that didn't really take off, but yeah, I think the things like removal of the ramp and the compressor, these aren't things that are going to be used by the mass market, including the range, contention. I think it's really smart to make these things an add-on feature, since who's going to use a compressor, or an air tool of a truck? Only a specific audience. So you could plug it in and do what you need to do, or put on ramps. Even though I wanted the ramp for my business, but sounds like I could make something aftermarket.
So, Jeff, I want to ask you the question just to really tear down to appeal a little bit closer to the words that he used. So, Elon said that he is very closely, he reviews the production plans every week. So, what kind of clues do you get from that by those words that he used?
First off, there's I think what people need to understand is, if you're a Tesla enthusiast or you're an investor in the company, and I'm not providing investment advice, but Elon's position as a CEO of a company, to be involved in that type of detail is honestly unheard of. At a kind of a Fortune, 100, 500 company, I've never, and I've worked for many CEOs, I've worked for many billionaire CEOs in tech before, and they're normally product people, they're normally finance people, they could be, engineer, inventor type, but it's very rare for you to have kind of all that in one, and then they care about the manufacturing environment, and they prioritize, the manufacturing plan over many things. And I just would tell you, it's so unique. It's like, again, I've never heard of it, I've never seen it before, and it's such a good thing, because ultimately the way that product goes together and the efficiency of it going together will ultimately dictate how much free cash flow and how effective Tesla is as a business. And the fact that you have the top person driving that culture, down throughout the rest of the company, and you can hear it when you talk to Drew or Lars or others, that they understand it as, engineering leaders of the company, that it's not their job to just deliver something that they can make one of. It's their job to deliver something that's truly designed for manufacturing that can scale. So by Elon reviewing those plans and being into that level of detail, I see him treating the factory more like a product, and him wanting to advance. This is the 2025 factory. He's going to make sure the 2025 factory is meaningfully different than the 2023 factory we just walked through today, and meaningfully different, meaning better, focused on critical metrics like output per square meter, focused on the click rate of the line, reducing process steps, reducing components. These are all the things like you're basically rooting out complexity. So it's, if you're in Tesla supply chain, it's a dream come true that the CEO's doing that. And if you're thinking about Tesla's cost structure, or their it's also a dream come true, because again, most CEOs are focused on um, other things, and they kind of like I've literally been put in the situation of like, well, we figured it out. Like, we figured out the product. Now you need to go figure out how to build it and do it profitably. And that mindset won't work. So now that he's treating the factory like the product while the product's being developed, and all those things are being thought of concurrently. The CEO of the company pushing down cost, pushing down simplicity, pushing down design for manufacturability. It's going to unlock a lot of potential in Tesla that other companies it won't happen.
What's the chances, do you guys think, that the robot, a humanoid robot, would be part of the building of the 25,000 next gen? I'll remind you guys that at the investor day, Tom Ju had a moment when he went up to the stage, and he said, when Giga Mexico's built, we'll have 10,000 employees, maybe 5,000 Tesla bots. So they were thinking about doing that already at the time. And if Giga Mexico was designed for the next gen, maybe that is maybe what he was referring to when he said the way that we manufacture, it's going to be a revolution. It's going to blow people's minds. It's going to be not like any car production that anyone has ever seen before. It could just be simply referring to the unboxed model, but it could also be hinting that humanoid robots, that's a little bit of a stretch. But what do you guys think?
If you fly over a factory, like if you could physically like float above a factory, like one of the drones that are doing all the images, what you would visually see is you have the perimeter, the outer perimeter of the factory, where it's like it's inbound material, it's quality control, that inbound material. So there's material rooms, inbound receiving, and then you'd have the whole outbound piece of it, final inspection of the vehicle, and outbound, getting it from the outer perimeter of the factory, into it's on this path for distribution out of the factory. So my thoughts on the bot is it would start somewhere in the perimeter of the factory, doing some kind of mundane task, whether it's inspection, it's material sorting. It would actually be outside of the line portion of the factory, and then it would work itself in over time. And I don't think it'll be tied to a particular product per se. I think when they're ready to go on the bot and they're ready to do a material sorting operation, they'll do it on Model 3 or Y when it's ready. Or they'll do it on whatever product when it's ready. I don't think they have to have a starting point of, now this will happen on Model 2. So those are my thoughts. Just an opinion.
Okay. Who wants to have a debate with me? Okay. I strongly believe that the compact car, the Model 2, is going to be built off the Cybertruck line. Now, I might be wrong, because if you looked at the map that they showed earlier, they just showed a Cybervan and the Cybertruck, and then they had the compact car on its own separate column. But you can't build a $25,000 car if you have to paint it. It's going to be robo-taxi designed, you want it to be so safe that people will feel safe inside of it despite it being driven by a computer. If you are building a manufacturing first design, which is what Cybertruck was designed because of that, like you're right, they didn't design it. They went and thought about, how do I make the fastest, easiest, cost-effective scaling manufacturing process? And from that came the design of the Cybertruck. And so this is like, why would you then all of a sudden create a brand new car, because it needs to be cheap and it's got to be like, best parts? It's, for me, it still does not make any sense. Who wants to debate me on that topic? Go ahead, AJ. It looks like there's lots of hands. Go ahead.
I want to debate you. I just want to point out, because you made the following comment, you can't have a painted car, $25,000, something like that. Please shout if I misquote you. But the fact that we have tons of brand new cars with paint at that price point or below is evidence that this is not the ultimate. Because I think Elon said this once, volume solves a lot of ills or something like that. And this car, this lower cost car is made to be made in huge volumes. And there you can afford a $500 million paint shop, and it's not a huge cost driver.
Ouch. Good point. BYD makes $5,000 cars, right?
My take on it is a little bit of like a lot of what you said, but then twisted just a little bit to a different direction. I think to some degree Tesla has, I don't know, flexibility in everything they say about the future. And I would include the $25,000 price tag in there, especially given really what is the end goal is kind of where my mind goes. And it's bringing down the cost of transportation. And so whether it's $25,000 or $30,000, whether it's, if Tesla can make it fully autonomous, does that $5,000 matter at all? No. So my take is, yes, I agree it'll be made like the Cybertruck because that's the most cost-effective way, but not because, I don't think it needs to be on the same line. I think it will probably be made with similar processes. But I think what we're going to see is, Tesla, in my mind, what Elon wants is for the next product to be fully autonomous. And whether it's a van that's fully autonomous or a two-door, two-seater that's fully autonomous, that's the part in my mind that's undecided. And so the two-door, two-seater is the quote-unquote Model 2, $25,000 car we've been talking about, but the van is similar. And so if there is a vehicle that's built on the same line, that's, in my mind, the van, Cyber Van, and that's because production of or demand for Cybertruck is good, but they've got extra capacity. Versus if demand is very good, and or they figure out how to make it truly autonomous, then we might. Well, if they make it truly autonomous, I think they might try to make both at the same time, both the Cyber Van and the Model 2. So, kind of a complex answer, not really a debate, but more of just like a richness. And I think we kind of take this $25,000 price tag as like as something that's set. But if they figure out autonomy, that price does not matter.
So I have to address this. Sorry, Jeff and Xander, but then you just made my point, Ryan. So if the Cyber Van was built on the Cybertruck platform, but it's going to be autonomous too, right? Then wouldn't you have every car built from now be modular, and you'd be able to build a two-seater, a four-seater, six-seater, a van, all in the same platform? That's what my point is. So if the Cyber Van is built on a Cybertruck platform, very likely the compact car would be as well as a modular component.
I think my point goes to like what actually makes it modular and what makes it a platform. In my mind, the Cybertruck platform is, I don't know if I should say like too long, but it is, I'm going to say, too long to be a two-seat, to be a practical two-seat vehicle. So sure, I hear where you're coming from, but I think in that case, you just make a different production line that, yes, takes a lot of the same inspiration, same battery cells, same general design. Maybe it doesn't need to be like air suspension. So I think I think it makes sense to design a different platform for that kind of use case.
Do you really think it's going to be two seats?
I think we're going to see them take some learnings from Cybertruck. And if they can make it autonomous, they're going to try to determine whether to make a van or a two-seater next, because they already have a platform for a five-seater. They've got many platforms for five-seaters. So I think they're looking at how we use our cars now, and from there going to determine what the next vehicle is.
So isn't most of the cost in the battery? And if you're going to try to make a lower cost vehicle, you're going to have to go for lightweight to still have a range that will be tolerated by the mass market. We're not talking about 400-mile vehicles or 300s. I'm thinking they're going to go to the low twos. So where do you think, are you saying, Herbert, by the same line that you're using the same skateboard? I would imagine every vehicle that Tesla makes has its own lines. That's where the capex goes, is to make those lines. But you're just talking about what the not being stainless steel and
Yeah, I mean, that's another good point. Very good point. It's good. If the battery's the most expensive, it can't be heavy, so they can't do this. You're right. That's another good point.
I mean, I think it's going to have at least 4 seats just because it's very little incremental space or cost to do that.
Okay, so if we look back to the other things that happened, the other comments that happened at the interview today, they talked about volume targets as well, but he did keep saying, right, I can't say anything. Was is that new? I mean, I don't remember him saying that too often in the past before, but he said that. Yeah,
he's being asked like specific forward-looking statements. I think that's not new.
Okay, so just because Sandy asked him, and then he had to say that. If okay, and then him being an engineer CEO, they spent a lot of time talking about that. That's very very unique. Um, and then when he was asked, "Who's your competitors?" or "Who do you think is the next up there?" he didn't answer it. He just basically said, "Anybody who has delayed their EV plans, they're going to be out of luck at some point."
Yeah, that was a big message, I thought.
What's the message?
I don't know how you how you not participate for a year or more, how you not increase capacity as the you'd almost have to believe that EVs are going to stall for a year. And if you believe everything's going to be frozen in time, or there's not going to be a huge movement, then that may be interesting. But these companies are already far behind and they have to catch up. And so, yeah, I think that was kind of a warning shot to all these companies that have announced all these delays that, like, you know, they're going to be in trouble because this is what consumers want. I think that that quote that I guess Mary Barra put out, like, well, yeah, we're going to go now. Instead of it's like, here's our plan, here's our roadmap, we're going fully electric by 2035. Now she's putting these caveats in of like, well, if this is what consumers want. Well, if you design a vehicle that is so good, regardless of propulsion system, and you get the cost structure right, they're going to want it. You get the price to them right, like they're going to want it. If you don't design a good product, you design a crappy product, and you're trying to check a box, for whatever environmental credits or whatever. Well, then yeah, you're going to put something out there that consumers don't want. So I just found that to be very interesting. I know there's people that don't, have like political beliefs against like all kinds of things against EVs, but I think that's starting to become more of over time. I believe that'll become more of the fringe. So yeah, I think that was kind of a warning. Like, this is not the right move. I think he wants the broader industry moving over, to EV. That's what he ultimately wants. He wants that. It's not like he's like trying to like, oh, this is more for Tesla now. Um, he wants everybody on board and driving.
Go ahead, AJ.
I got a question for Jeff, but it's a little bit off topic, and I wanted to hear his view on how he thinks GM is going to finance the 10 billion share buyback.
I mean, they did like a bond offering. I mean, I asked, I got DM'd by the Department of Energy head because I was putting messages out last week. I'm like, how the hell does this work? They take loans for Ultium from the federal government. They take loans for a just transition to EV. I know that loan probably didn't close yet, the one from August, but the Ultium loan from last year certainly did. And then now they're giving 10 billion back to the shareholders. So yeah, I mean, I I think you've correctly articulated that, AJ. Like they're not putting out to keep the free cash flow to do that. They're not going to do it all at once. But it really begs the question of like, when you were complaining about the UAW and how it's like going to put you out of business, and you're complaining about the transition to EV, but now you go turn around. That 10 billion could have put them like in the stratosphere on EV if they actually knew where to put the money and how to invest it. So I think that's actually the bigger problem. They've made so many different mistakes in their EV investments. Remember, think Nikola, think Lordstown, think even the Bolt is turned out to yeah, and then Cruise. Think of all these multi-billion-dollar investments that have literally just put them in the tank on EV. So it's almost like, okay, we don't know how to we don't have the solution for EV, and then we have these shareholders that want sugar high right away, like we're so yeah, it's a bad situation for GM. And yeah, I know that there was favorable reaction on the stock for a couple of days, but yeah, I think they're going to do this in pieces, and I think they're going to get some, from this bond offering. But yeah, you have money, you have intermixed money now with all the loans they've taken, and at some point, we've seen the graphs today. The ICE vehicles have peaked. They peaked in 2017, and in the U.S., ICE supplier capacity and factory capacity is like 30 to 40% in excess. And it's the same in Europe and China as well. So there's a big issue that when you have that excess capacity, you're underutilized. Your fixed cost structure is going to go up. All the suppliers' cost structure is going to go up. So ICE is in a position where if you're at peak volumes and you have excess capacity, your costs are only kind of going to go in one direction.
Okay, we've got another. AJ, did you have another reply to that?
Yeah, on the GM point, I was actually looking at this quite closely, and in the numbers, when you look at GM's numbers, basically, long story short, my conjecture is they basically do even more outsourcing. GM has already a fairly low headcount given the size of the company, suspiciously low headcount, and sort of the number of employees versus vehicles has consistently sort of gone down during Mary Barra's tenure, which is in January 10 years. And I think what she's going to do, otherwise I can't see how she's going to finance this. Instead of making vehicles themselves, GM, she will outsource entire vehicle programs to people like Magna International that already make entire vehicles, including the development program for other brands. But we'll see.
Okay, so another point that was made today, and I just wanted to dig a little closer to that. So when he said that the first production line for the Gen 2, the Gen 3, the Model 1, the Model 2 was going to be at Giga, Texas, he then said Giga, Mexico will be the second place. So it sounds logical, right? Because we all, Mexico will be the primary factory for the Gen 2. But doesn't it make sense though that if you were to use an existing factory, Giga Texas, then I would have been very happy if he had said the next place would have been Giga Shanghai, or even Europe, Giga Berlin. But he said no, Giga Mexico. Does that now give you a little hope? Maybe Giga Mexico is not as delayed as we all thought. Because if you're concerned about the macro, the recession could still happen. Big hit recession could happen next year. It could be 2025 or later. But for him to have said, no, Giga Mexico is going to be the second place pretty confidently. What do you guys think about that?
My opinion is every factory is going to build this vehicle. And I think if I were in Elon's position, I would I'd have a strategy around it. Obviously, you have to have the consumer base that's going to want to take that product, but that's pretty well said that that's going to happen. I think he wants Mexico to be a fast follower, but I honestly think within a year they're going to want to be bringing up the other sites, and that's what you normally do in a multi-site configuration. And again, unless it's in the wrong geography where like people aren't going to buy that certain type of vehicle, like you wouldn't put Model S and X everywhere. But for this type of vehicle, I believe he's going to have multiple factories up and going. So I don't know. I don't know if I think it's going to be in serial of like Texas first, Mexico second. I don't know if it needs to be the case. I would hope that the way that they're structured is that the receiving factories are sending people to the factory that's currently building the product. This is why we saw in Texas last week, there was a bunch of people from Berlin, a bunch of people from Shanghai, and they should be there, pulling stuff over into their factory. And that's the way it works in other industries as well. So my take is they get Texas up and going, and they get an operation up and going, but in terms of like full scale volume, it's going to be these bigger factories pulling it over, and really almost as concurrently as possible, as I think is what Elon and the team would want. I don't think they would want some serial rollout.
Okay, and AJ, did you want to ask something about that?
Yeah, just adding one little detail. I mean, Tesla has a precedent of ramping two factories at the same time. I think Texas only started a few months after Berlin construction, and they were almost completed at the same time. So they have ramped two factories at the same time. So what we might see is they tried to get the first prototype lines up and running in Texas, and once they feel confident, they continue ramping in Texas, but also kick off or speed up Mexico or something like that, or even also only a few months later after Mexico, they might kick off Berlin, or they might even start earlier in Berlin because they know the red tape there will prolong everything anyway.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting that he actually said the second production line, the second place will be Mexico. What do you guys think about this comment that somebody made that says, why would you create a Gen 2, I keep saying Gen 3 Model 2 car in Giga, Texas, when the compact car is not, well, they believe that the compact car is not going to sell, massive numbers here in the US. It should have been in Mexico, should have been Berlin or Shanghai. Of course, we now know that Elon wanted the production line to be built right in, under his noses, under the noses of all the top executives and the engineers. They needed to oversee that. But I personally don't believe, and I agree that there is no market for the compact car in the U.S. One of the reasons why there isn't a market today is because many of the U.S.-based car companies don't make a compact car. And that's why. That simply is that, because they didn't do that because they make more money selling the SUVs and the trucks. And so there's not that there isn't a demand here. It's that these guys weren't making this. This is something that Brian White from My Tesla Weekend was telling me many months ago. Yeah, who wants to answer that? AJ, go ahead.
I would just, isn't it maybe the other way around? The reason why American car companies are not making small cars is because the Americans don't buy them.
Yeah, my understanding from talking to who told me this one, I think it was Nicholas Colas. I think what he said was that in the U.S., the gas prices skyrocket, or it's quite cheap. The U.S. is quite cheap gas compared to everywhere else, and so people, wanted to travel further, and then they didn't care about the gas price, and so that's why these SUVs and trucks took off better. But then when there was there definitely was in the 70s, two times in the history last decades where the gas prices did skyrocket. That's when the Japanese were able to come and take a foothold. That's when Hyundai was able to come in and take a foothold, the cheap compact cars. So no, I truly believe that there's a market for it. Now, some people are saying, well, the Americans are bigger people and they travel much further away, longer distances. So that might be true, but it's just that, globally, the sedan segment is massive. It's like second largest behind SUVs. It's actually trucks. That's a tiny little, segment globally.
Yeah, I don't see why anyone in the U.S. wouldn't want a vehicle for their kid or young adult or anyone who can't afford the higher priced vehicles to have the technology and the safety that comes with owning a Tesla. So I think just as we know, as you come down in price, the amount of vehicles that you could sell worldwide increases. So they'll sell.
Yeah, the other perspective is that if they feel very, very confident about robotaxi, that's why you build it in the US. You're going to roll out robotaxi with these compact cars in the major cities.
Yeah, but how many years away do you think a robotaxi is?
Ask Elon.
I asked you.
Elon's deciding where these products are being built. So I think it's going to be sooner than we think because it's FSD version 12. Although you could say that at the last interview that he was at the Deal Book interview in New York, or the New York Times, and he was asked about FSD version 12, he didn't really answer that with a lot of confidence. He just talked about, yes, supervised FSD is 4 times safer than a human. He did not talk about version 12. He didn't say it's going to come sooner than you realize. He didn't say anything that we all hoped that he did say. So I don't know if it's too much for us to read into that one. So Jeff, when you heard today's interview, you actually, I think you DM'd and said you didn't hear much. You didn't think that you heard anything that was too exciting?
Yeah, I felt that I didn't hear anything super new in the conversation. I know, and even in fact from the book, Elon said he was, Walter Eisen said he was very involved with the, the development of that line and the approach to how that product would be built. I honestly didn't really think I heard anything new. It's nice to hear that they're prioritizing that Gen 2 or the Gen 3 vehicle, the 25K vehicle, that's a priority for Tesla, because that there was points in time a year or more ago where that wasn't a priority. So that was good to hear, but I honestly didn't hear much else new from that.
Mm-hmm.
AJ?
I thought the comment that he felt that they were at an advanced stage, I thought that was also new.
That was a fantastic statement. Yep, he said advanced stage.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone. I think I've gone through that timeline before. They would have to be at a pretty advanced stage of development to be doing, then to be ready for prototyping, minimum viable product, and then eventually getting into the prototyping effort over the next year. So they'd have to be at an advanced stage of the line design, because that would set a lot of the constraints for how the product is designed itself. So that all made sense to me. If it was at an early, I guess, there wouldn't be any product in 2025 if they weren't at an advanced stage, I guess.
Who expects that we're going to actually see a Gen 2 design reveal in 2024, first half of 2024, or they won't do that this time? And some people are saying, oh, they're just going to, by the time they announce it, then they're going to be ready to produce it within months.
I don't think there's any advantage of a reveal early. Yeah, look what happened with the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck was revealed in 2019. A bunch of pricing was revealed. They thought they were going to release it in 2021. And Elon explained, the pandemic, the shortages, and so forth. And quite frankly, I don't believe that they were at supply equilibrium on batteries at that point. So if you have a finite number of batteries and you have vehicles that are ready to go that are designed, you want to allocate all that. Unless you're designing something that's going to double the gross margins, you're going to want to be allocating to those existing vehicles. So I don't think there's any advantage with them doing a reveal, to be honest with you, until it's much closer. The other thing that happened with Cybertruck that people underestimate is all the commodity inflation that happened on. I showed the graph on steel. Steel's up 50% since they per ton since they revealed the Cybertruck, and people are wondering why the Cybertruck costs more. I mean, we've had 21% across the board inflation, and you have it at the commodity level at 50% for one of the biggest commodities in the vehicle. So there's no advantage to them. To the closer the reveal should be closer, I think, to the product coming out, as possible. The only other reason you would do that is if you need to get like suppliers and partners excited. But I think Tesla already has that. Tesla's known in the industry now, like they're doing the highest volume car in the industry already, EV or not. So anytime Tesla has suppliers beating their doors down, so there's nobody they need to like get excited. That's my opinion.
Yeah, before we get to you again, AJ, let's ask Trucker's Hammock. Do you say anything?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I was a trucker in 2015, 2016. I saw all the, it was air freighting product to California to manufacture the car, not to like parts of the car, but to manufacture the car. And to me, that's Elon's product, which he can produce everything with, is his manufacturing. He keeps everything close by, and he moves very rapidly. He'll air freight stuff across the country, which I had never seen before. Internal air freight to California and to Nevada. I'm here in Detroit. And a lot of the car was built here, but he moves extremely rapidly. And as far as the legacies, I'm sorry, they're done for. I can't see them doing anything. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely agree. AJ?
No, I was just going to add to Jeff's point. For me, it's also not clear what a pre-reveal of the low-cost model, what benefit Tesla would have. For me, I think it's the downsides. It's skewed to the downside. There could be some Osborning, etc. But in terms of benefits, quite frankly, I don't really see any at this point. In 2019, to pre-release sort of the Cybertruck made a lot of sense because you could gauge a little bit public reception, because you could find out whether there is some demand or the public hates it. And so there was a strong rationale for that. But this time around, not sure there's huge benefit in pre-releasing something.
Yeah, there's no benefit, but then I have to ask the question, why all of a sudden this idea? Where did this idea come from that they won't do this? They've done it for every single car. Almost every other auto manufacturer does this. Why all of a sudden this? Who came up with this idea that maybe they won't do this? What evidence do we have?
I'm not sure if technically it's 100% true, because you could look at the refresh Model S and X. There was no pre-release. Yes, you can have a debate, or it's different because just refresh. Also, the new Model 3 Highland, there was no. Of course, this is much more sensitive in terms of Osborning. So, not sure that the argument is completely clear cut.
Okay, let's get you up here, Amrita. We lost her. Okay, let's Mark. Hello, Mark. Yep, can't hear you, Mark. We'll have Street Wolf. Street Wolf, are you there? Can anybody hear me?
Go ahead, Street Wolf. I think they're connecting as you're asking them.
Go ahead, Street Wolf. Nice name. Maybe that's referring to the Cybertruck. What is it called? The Cyber Beast
Logo.
Beautiful. The logo, yeah. That represents the 3 motors, the tri-motor. Yeah. Okay. Mark, Street Wolf. Nobody wants to say anything.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, it's working. That was good. I want to make a point, man. I've been following the Tesla online community now for about 6 months. I stumbled across a guy, Steve. You had him on yesterday, I think. And I keep hearing people talking about construction workers, and I think most of the people doing the talking about construction workers have never actually worked in construction or owned a business or made a payroll or know anything about it. I look at this Cybertruck, man, as a business owner that has to buy gasoline and use work vehicles. And I'm imagining, I don't know, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that if you have the app and you can allow someone to drive your vehicle, as the owner of the vehicle, I could look at my app and have 360-degree visuals of what's going around the vehicle. Is that correct?
Not while it's in motion, but yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah, Xander's replying to you, but I guess you can't hear him. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. This is so weird. I hope X gets this sorted out because this is super, super cool. But one of the points I was trying to make is as a business owner, right? When you look at the fuel savings, when you look at the fact that you have locked storage, when you look at the fact that you can pull security on your employees, like it's not just that your truck's locked up in security mode. These are, can you hear me, man?
I can hear you. Keep going.
Is it working? anyway, so as a business owner, as a construction worker, I ordered 3 of these machines 4 years ago, without having any idea of the surveillance capability, being able to track your vehicles. I never really thought about not doing oil change. I'm not an EV guy. I drive a Ford Bronco. But when I started paying attention to the Cybertruck, I went ahead and ordered 3 of them. The idea that you got to build that's not going to get scratched. I think, and they talk about construction workers, all these fanboys of Tesla talk about construction workers like they're morons. These are business people. They run business, make good money, they make payroll. And I think when they start to see these things roll out and wind up at job sites, like I was watching the videos, those aren't construction workers, those are actors wearing yellow hats, right? I think when you get these things out, I think it's going to make a huge difference. I could be wrong, but I know I want them for our company. It's not even a question.
Wow, that's very powerful. Yeah, because you are a company. Yeah.
And I can imagine a day. I can imagine a day where you would get like a compact LLM operating inside your vehicle, and you get in, hey Mark, blah blah blah, and your car starts talking to you. Hey Jimmy Calder, you're inside. There's so much stuff coming down the pipe that no one's even talking about. Like when you start integrating the AI with the car, with construction, with managing employees, with schedules, and suddenly it gets so much more. You can imagine putting a box on the back of one of these trucks, right? I'm not talking about like a camper. I'm talking like a box that's like 6 feet tall that you can stand inside and have all your plumbing supplies, have your tool. There's going to be so much. Everyone's looking at the Cybertruck. Oh, it's so ugly. When do you start seeing it rolling around with ladder racks and campers and outrageous 4-wheel drive and spare tire on the back of the tailgate? I'm so glad I own a lot of Tesla stock. That's all I can tell you.
Oh, so you're glad that you do own a lot of Tesla stock?
I owned a whole lot of Tesla stock long before I've never owned an EV. Never even thought about EVs until I saw the Cybertruck. I mean, the really crazy thing was I was laying on my couch 4 years ago, bored to death, and I flipped over my laptop. I was browsing YouTube, stumbled across the Cybertruck event, stumbled across it. Okay? Didn't even know what it was. Like, what the hell is this? And I start watching this. Like, this is madness. What the hell is this? And then I was like, oh my God, it's like Star Trek. Oh my God, it's like Battlestar Galactica. Oh my God, this is nuts. And I went ahead and ordered one. It was only $100. Went to sleep, woke up the next morning, ordered 2 more trucks, bought $30,000 worth of stock. And I made enough money on that stock to pay for the 3 Cybertrucks, I think, just about. And I bought a lot more stock since then. And I've been following Tesla. I've never bought an EV because I don't want to drive a Model Y or Model X. It doesn't appeal to me. I love my Bronco. But guys, wow.
I love this. Great story, Mark. Appreciate it.
Just wow. It was like, wow.
Herbert,
and I got to tell you guys something. I've been following you and all you guys. I just randomly listened to on YouTube. And being able to actually start paying attention to this and then seeing the Carmudgeon interview. I used to work on Apache helicopters back in the day. I know a little bit about this engineering stuff. And when I saw, and I do a lot of heavy machinery. I sell heavy machinery. And when I saw the tour of that factory, I don't know if all you guys like those FANUC robots. I've sold those. I know a little bit about this topic. And when I saw that production line, I couldn't believe it. I mean, you know, you heard all their hand building this, and you see the panel gaps and all that stuff. And when you see all that automation going into play, if you're holding Tesla stock right now, you should be smiling.
No, we are.
You should be loading up, because I really think that.
There you go.
I mean,
you get it.
You look at companies like Google. They're making ads. Can you imagine the ads you could serve up in a vehicle?
Yeah.
Just as an example. I mean, just there's so much. I don't know. It's changed my mind. It's like learning about LLMs and learning about AI and thinking about the vehicle and thinking about integrating AI technology with the vehicle, thinking of the vehicle as a rolling office. And then don't even get me started on FSD, because that's really crazy. But
that's great, man.
I'm very skeptical on the FSD, by the way, guys.
Right. That's good.
I've played with it. I think, and I'm worried that got very optimistic and we're running into some, I don't know, we'll see. But I don't think FSD matters as much as everyone says it does. I think delivering a great product that functions and solves problems. I mean, to watch the backlash from people like, well, if you shot the door with a rifle, it would go through. It's not that tough. Like, have you guys lost your minds? You can put a pocket knife through the door of my Bronco. It got dented going through the car wash. I mean, it's crazy, right? Anyway, I'm sorry, am I babbling? I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting there, but you definitely.
This is wild. So actually, I joined X 3 days ago.
Okay. That's
and
great.
Here we are chatting. It's so crazy.
Is it crazy? So this is a great example of somebody
keep up the good work, guys, man. I'm loving it.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah.
Right,
you got brought into the system here, and now you're fully invested, and you have been for a while.
Absolutely.
Hey, Emmett, welcome. Come on up, Emmett.
Welcome, Mark. That was really cool. I appreciate that and love the enthusiasm. Herbert, Alex, Jeff, as always, love you guys. Love being with you. And I wanted to answer Herbert's provocative or somewhat provocative question. I'll restate it for people that are joining the room who don't remember. What evidence is there that Tesla's going to change their approach? I believe this was the topic when it comes to release events and having release events happen shortly before the product is actually available for delivery. And I want to answer that question with a few points. One is, be less wrong. They have the smartest people in the world, especially when it comes to engineers. So they know in marketing and so forth, and they know how to look at stuff and look at patterns. So that's number two. Number three, the maturity and the stage that they're at. They're committed to continuous improvement, and it's better for everyone now that we've reached this level of maturity, that the current products are just flying off the shelves and everyone's stoked about it. And then when there is a magical new product, there'll be a lot of rumors about it and kept hush hush. And then finally there's a reveal, and then, oh, by the way, you can order it and deliveries will start in 3 months. That's going to take us to the next level. And I believe they're definitely smart enough to achieve that. So that's the closest thing I can come to evidence to that great question.
I like that. I like that a lot. But you know how I'm following the X, and there's this whole conversation going on right now, like, oh, Tesla purposely decided to cut the event short, not to reveal information, because they wanted the 4 YouTube influencers, give them the chance to. No, come on, guys. Where did that come from? That idea does not fly. The best reason why he might have cut the event short was because there was a potential attack from a crazy person with a gun that decided to go to Giga, Texas to shoot people or something like that.
Yeah, if you saw, there were they had a sledgehammer, and they didn't do that demo, and they looked like they were about to, but something changed.
But yeah, I get I mean, I hope that they learn. Sure, be less wrong, all that, but. I mean, some of us are saying things that I don't know where this conversation pops up. Welcome, Gary. How are you doing? Are you traveling still, or you're always everywhere? Weren't you just in New York? Gary? Maybe he's still in New York.
Oh, here we go. I'm busy loading up my freezer. Herbert, did you go to the delivery?
I did not this one. No, I should have gone. I just missed it.
Yeah, no, I've been sick, so there's no real good reason I should have gone if I did. I wanted to also say hi to Emmett, because I bet I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you've got a chance to see the Cybertruck in Bellevue. It's in your backyard.
Sure did. Got pictures too.
Yeah, Matthew Dunnigan, Ryan and I were just there yesterday, and I was trying to convince the guy to let us get inside of it, but they still had it roped off. And what they said was that they're not allowed to let anybody in the Cybertrucks yet because they don't have parts. They won't have parts available. So if somebody goes in and breaks something of that truck, they wouldn't be able to fix it. That was his answer.
Well, that's a good excuse, isn't that?
But apparently the Bellevue Square Mall, which is in Seattle, that Matthew and I and Emmett, I guess, live near, is the highest trafficked service, what they call these showrooms, Tesla showrooms that are out there. And then when the actual event happened, it had the most, people coming in. 20,000 people went that day. And normally they have 10,000 people,
Wow.
8 to 10,000 people. So it's massive numbers we're talking about. And then I saw the Lucid store. There was nobody there. I was so sad for them, but it's a beautiful car.
Did they have a viewing party in Seattle or in Washington State?
What's a viewing party?
Well, just for the Cybertruck launch, did they actually have a like a watch party?
Oh, I don't know what party, but the showroom had invited people to go there. Yeah, lineups, lineups everywhere like that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Because I was organizing events here in the Toronto area. Well, beyond, we had 4 showrooms that were simulcasting the live stream, and we were hosting people and giving out prizes and all that sort of stuff. But it was in my opinion, we're coming up on a week on it. I thought it was a fun event. So I don't know, because I wasn't there, and of course Xander indicates that it seemed like there might have been more, and it just sort of it seemed like it was nice and tight and a good event. So I don't, as they say, what you don't know, you don't know. So it looked like a solid event on its own.
Yeah, I think so too. But so is it fair to say, guys, that at this point, the Cybertruck is a massive success? Would you guys say that, or is it still too early? Based on 30 million people watching these 4 social media, all the reviews came back that are non-Tesla people. They were just shining. In fact, I was shocked that the CNBC people, there hasn't been a lot of really negative attacks. I think I just reviewed 5 Wall Street analysts, and they were all very positive, except for one that just said, Adam Jonas, which is weird that they're so positive on Tesla. They said that they only expect 30,000 Cybertrucks in 2024, 75,000, 78,000 by 2025. They were the most negative in terms of numbers, and certainly there was concern about prices. But I don't know, man. I think the Cybertruck is a huge success. What do you guys think?
I think we are yet to hear of or read of a byline from Laura Kolodny.
Yeah.
For me, I think the Cybertruck itself is a huge success. I think from the people that are sincerely enthusiastic about Tesla and Cybertruck, generally speaking, huge success. And I like some of the numbers that have come out in terms of the new orders and so forth that have been shared. That's wonderful.
Well, what is those numbers? I mean, do we know that people? I mean, it's so expensive, according to a lot of people who had reservations. Do we think that? What's your percentage of the number of reservations that's going to stay and actually buy versus dropping it?
What I was referring to specifically is, I believe it was Elon. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm just winging it here. But I believe it was already like 140,000 new orders, and just really great stats in terms of
what
brand.
Where did this come from?
I believe it was in Elon's post. I saw it today in my feed, and I saw it in at least 2 different sources. Hopefully someone else has seen it. I'll be happy to look for it in a moment. But that I thought was great. And in terms of the percentage of people that are convert, maybe as low as 50%, just because of the economic challenges. But there is one thing that I thought was a little bit of a failure. And well, let me word it this way. For me, as an enthusiast, I freaking loved the event. And the reason I loved it so much is because of all of the test community posting and live streams and different discussions that were happening. The whole day was a blast. And then I went to Bellevue, and that was a blast. And I sat in front of the thing for an hour on one of the Nordstrom couches and just chilled out, was doing stuff on my phone, and just looked up every once in a while. Yeah, that's my future vehicle. I loved it. I loved it for sure. But I thought there was just a little bit of a negative within some of the Tesla community and the quality of or lack of quality of what was streamed for the reveal event itself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Very, very dark, too dark of an event. Yeah, that's right.
I think whenever you have expectations, we see this over and over. You saw this with Battery Day and the Million Mile battery. The community just wants to, mainstream media, never mind. But when you see it in the community, it's just because of expectations and not understanding what Tesla is up to. Like I didn't walk away from the tri-motor not having the battery once I learned. Like initially, yeah, I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. That the mileage, the range is so low. But then as soon as I learned about it, that there was a range extender, it just made sense that you're trying to cater to different types of audiences and making it so that you can build your truck the way that you need it for your use. Like, I don't know if I'm going to go for the tri-motor, but I want the range. So I'll probably do the double with the, with the range extender. So that I could still be under 100 and it's fast enough. I mean, how fast do you need it to go? So, so yeah, and then same thing goes with if you, as I mentioned earlier, the air tools or a ramp. You can cater your truck to your needs and get a tent or whatever you want to do. And if you wanted an air conditioned bed, great, get a little AC, a little portable, and plug it in.
What do you guys think of this theory that the range extender is this box thing that looks like a toolbox, right? And Warren Redlick was saying, why did they do that? Why didn't they make it flat, and then so they can cover the bed of the truck, and then you have less height, but you have the full length of the truck. And one answer to that is that this could be used for other vehicles. So maybe the compact car would have this ability to put the range extender in the back trunk or in the front or something like that. The van might be able to use it too. What do you think of that theory, guys?
I find that theory interesting. And from a physics standpoint, the van, it's not built yet, so they could definitely make that work. The other vehicles, I don't know if logistically it's possible, but I like the concept. I very much like the concept. But I kind of share Xander's enthusiasm. I might even take it a level further. I'm a pretty small percentage, but a full-size SUV type of person. That's the ideal vehicle for me. That I owned a full-size Bronco back in the day, and then my last vehicle that I just sold was a Jeep Commander, which is a 7-seater. Rarely use the 7 seats, but I like that extra space. So the idea for me of losing a little bit of space because of that battery, but having the ability to drive up to my home, having one Powerwall installed, and now I've got like 4 or 5 additional Powerwalls in my car because of the extender, and all of those benefits and being able to go into the deep woods or on a beach. Let's say I wanted to go to Baja for a couple weeks and just being able to hang out, maybe throw some solar panels out and not have any worries, and calculated to make sure I got plenty of battery to get back to the next supercharger. Man, I am just so stoked about it. I'm elated. It's a really great value for someone like me who's already wanting those things.
I think we have Eddie up first.
Yeah, personally, I think the range extender is a stopgap, and it's just, I mean, initially, what you want is the battery to be in one piece, not 2 separate pieces, because now you have to solve for so many different solutions. So, for example, it needs to work at 800 volts independently, without the range extender and with the range extender. And then now to, like, if you're talking about Elon's parking lot analogy, with Joe Rogan. Now, when you charge, one pack versus another, you're having the same parking lot analogy in each one. So you might need to have that 20% buffer in each one. So my personal thing is, look, they still have a lot of things they want to try with the 4680, and they're just not there yet. And that's why they're doing the range extender as the stopgap. And I personally think it's a poor choice. And I think part of the reasons why you wouldn't want to go with Warren Redlick's suggestion of putting it on the floor is then you'd have to make it strong enough to support like a pallet of cement. And so you'd have to make it so strong that it becomes even heavier, and it's not worth all that engineering, to make it so beefy that it becomes that much heavier. But yeah, I personally don't like, because look, okay, so here's the other thing about range. Not only BMS, which is what I was talking about with the battery with the parking lot thing, but then thermal management. You got to connect, a closed system where you have the electrolyte going in and out of to cool the batteries. You got to connect and disconnect that too. And so there's just a lot of things that you have to worry about when you're adding an extendable battery, and you have to worry about all these other things, these other systems.
Yeah, makes sense, Ed.
Agree with them. But so but clearly they worried about it. So is the argument that they only created one battery pack for the Cybertruck and they didn't want to create a second battery pack to give you the bigger range with more kilowatt hours?
So, I mean, during battery day, they talk about silicone doping, right? Adding silicone to the anode and getting silicone absorbs more lithium. That allows each. They thought that they would
losing you
long. Oh, you can't hear me?
We keep losing you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well, what I was saying is there's a lot of things they could do to the 4680s. And, during battery day, they talk about silicone doping. And I think they thought they would be further along and they could get the range out of the 4680s by the time they release the Cybertruck.
Yeah, but they're getting the range out of the smaller right sized vehicles, and that right the dual motors, what they promised. So if the third one doesn't calculate the same way, there's a reason for it, right?
Eddie, I honor and acknowledge your point that from what was originally envisioned pre-lockdown, pre-crisis, pre-supply chain, they mitigated some issues. They couldn't hit the mark on the 500 plus miles and a couple other things. So I acknowledge that. It's 100% true. But I think they did a kick-ass job for mitigation. But I also acknowledge that the 4680 ramp isn't as far along as I think they thought it would be by this time. Again, because of all the issues that no one knew were going to happen. But bottom line is acknowledging that, and that's the reality. And I'm not someone to cry over spilt milk. It's happened. It's done. We're on the other side of all that mess. I'm just really happy with the decisions they made, given the parameters that they had. And that's where I was speaking from personally.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm still getting the all-wheel drive. I wanted the tri-motor with the 500, obviously, as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the Cybertruck the way it turned out. I'm just saying, my personal opinion is that the range extender is the stopgap, because the 4680s is not as far along as they wanted it to be. And I mean, the 4680 is a huge goal. I mean, we got to remember that they have so many other things in the pipeline that are going to make significant changes. 4680 is huge. I mean, with all the other things they're thinking about doing, again, the silicone doping and the lithium refining. So all these things just have to come together, and will help out. And that's why I think the Model 2 will also have to wait for 4680 to ramp to be much, much higher.
Go ahead, Yoda. I don't think we can hear you, Tesla Yoda.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I was just wondering, for the range extender, for Tesla, they've got so much data on how much miles their owners drive on, on a daily basis. And so my guess is that they consciously designed this truck based on the optimal for the kind of the drivers. And so while I know it's a big topic of discussion today because of what was expected from when it was first revealed to now, I think over time, as more owners get their hands and start driving the Cybertruck, it should fade as a topic, especially with the range extender. And then I think, GoGoRo is a scooter that has the swapping of the batteries, and in Asia they have these swapping, I guess, vending machines, so to speak, uh, at a lot of places. And so I think, for the Model 2 or something like that, there potentially could be a removable pack for the robo taxi version of that vehicle.
Very unlikely. Lars, who's in charge of superchargers, said that they absolutely do not like the swappable idea. This was several years ago. He thought it was just a waste of batteries. You need to have multiple extra batteries for that.
Yeah, I want to highlight that the performance of the Cybertruck in the demo, in the videos that we saw at 30% and continuously getting the same range or the same performance in the drag times. So clearly, there's an improvement that's happened as a result of 4680s and what's going into that. And I did confirm I asked that question to someone regarding the range and of the tri-motor, and the response was that there is performance upgrade. There will be performance upgrades and range upgrades as as they continue to scale.
Okay, well, I think we can shut this one down, but thank you very much for a fantastic conversation. This was a good analysis of all the things about compact cars and what happened in the interview. Thanks, everybody. Please follow all the speakers and then follow CyberBulls1. That's the best way to know when we do these spaces. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Emmett, Gary, Eddie, and Tesla Yoda.
Thanks, Herbert.
Thanks,
Bye-bye,
Herbert.
guys.
Next time.
So.